If you want to excel in something, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Before my 16th birthday, I won my first professional title and had about 8 pro fights. The discipline that fighting teaches you, it teaches you have to be disciplined, you have to persevere. You might feel like giving up and you might be getting beaten within an inch of your life. I have found if you persevere, that's when the magic happens. I had a fight and won championship. In the first round, I got knocked down. I got up, he ran in and he knocked me straight back down with a punch. 3 knockdowns in this fight, you finished. And he ran in to finish me, I knocked him down. He got up, I knocked him down again. He got up, I knocked him down again. That's when the magic happens, like just when you think you're on the verge of losing or quitting or getting knocked out, just persevere.
Was there dark moments or difficult moments in like realizing you might have to put the gloves down at some point?
Nothing will ever compare to being under them lights and having that buzz of getting your hands raised, because no, that's a drug on earth that nothing can compare to. And that's what I've been chasing since I was 14. But at the same time, I'm not as arrogant enough to think I can just keep going and keep winning. And fighters have chapters and they've got a shelf life, and there's only so far you can go and there's only so far you can push it. And as hard as it was laying them gloves down, I think it was the right decision.
In terms of like the whole career looking back, what's the number one takeaway you would say that's the most important lesson you've learned over that time?
Today's episode is with a British legend in Muay Thai. And if you've been following the channel for a while, you might have seen the documentary that now has over 1 million views that we shot over 4 years ago with Liam, the Hitman Harrison. Liam is known around the world for his aggressive technique and style. In fact, it's the reason that shows like the Joe Rogan podcast have had him on multiple times. Just that aggression that he has. And that makes for such a super interesting conversation where we dive into who he really is as we peel back the mask behind the fighter. Yes, he's aggressive. Yes, he has this warrior, almost dark side to him, but he's one of the most humble men I've ever met. And I'm super excited to dive into the history, the techniques, and the mentality of Liam Harrison. Today's video, as always, was powered by Huel. I'm drinking their Black Edition. Linked down below, you can find out a little bit more, but I'll talk about this a little bit later on in the video. Also, I want to say a quick thank you to all our channel members who have clicked the join button down below, where you can get exclusive benefits like earlier uploads and more behind the scenes. Let's dive into the video.
First of all, just if people haven't watched the first video, just introduce yourself and what you do.
I am Liam Harrison. I'm an 8-time world Muay Thai champion from the Bad Company Gym in Leeds. I've been training around 25 years-ish now. Turned pro when I was 14, had close to 120 professional fights.
Yeah, the early days, that interests me a lot. And I don't, like I said, if people want to find more about that, we covered a lot in the first interview. But you grew up in Leeds. LS9 is like a notorious postcode for being a little bit rougher. Just for like an American audience, how would you describe, growing up in and around Leeds?
LS9 is the ghetto, basically. Yeah, like you just mentioned then, it's notorious for being a bit rough if you can't handle yourself around here, and especially back then as well, because it were a bit worse back then when I was growing up. If you can't handle yourself in them streets and stuff, it's you'll get eaten alive. That's one of the reasons I ended up in this gym here. I'm 13-year-old the first time I walked through these doors. And I was younger and stuff, and there were some pretty rough kids around the area and stuff like that. And I thought, I don't want everyone to end up being one of them kids who gets bullied and stuff like that. So I came down here just to learn how to defend myself, basically. And the second I walked through these gym doors, I just fell in love with it straight away when I saw. See, this gym, we've established a reputation for ourselves now of our coach Richard and all his fighters for being probably the best gym in Europe over the last 20 years-ish. But even when I first started 25 years ago, even then we had British and European champions. And when I walked through the door, I saw them kicking the pads and hitting the pads. And I didn't even know what Thai boxing was. It was my cousin, Andy Howson, who brought me here. And he ended up being a 5-time world champion himself. He brought me in through the door, and I opened and walked up the stairs, and I walked in and I saw one of the British champions kicking the pads like, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, holy shit, like, what's going on here? And I'd never seen anything like it before. And the smell of the liniment and it was like a run-down gym and stuff. I was like, it's like some rocky this. And then it just captivated me, and I was obsessed straight away.
And this place is like buried in an estate, really.
We're bang in the middle of LS9 here, like literally in the center of it.
Like when you drive in here, you do not expect to be pulling up to a gym, and then even then, like you come through the hallway, walk up the stairs, and then you find this place. My experience of Muay Thai was the first time we met, and it was the same thing for me. Like I've been around boxers, been around fighters, and we've filmed a lot of different projects. But when I heard you throwing kicks, it was just it was like a shotgun was going off. Like I was so shocked by it. So I can see how it kind of captured you. But at the age of 13, you walk in here. By the age of 15, you'd been to Thailand at that point.
So by the age of 15, I've probably had about, before my 16th birthday, I've won my first professional title and had about 8 pro fights, because we lied and said when I was 14. I had my first pro fight a week before my 15th birthday. I was 14. We lied and said I was 16.
And you was fighting a guy?
He was 19, the guy. So what happened in my first pro fight, I turned to Richard went, I'd had a few 2 fights. I had 2 amateur fights and I hated it. I had all the pads on. And Richard, don't make me do this again. I hate it. I remember I got push kicked and I were on the floor and it was like, because I had hot pads on, I couldn't get up. I was like a turtle on its back, and when a turtle gets stuck on his back, I couldn't get off the floor. And I said, Richard, please don't make me I said, let me fight pro. I want to fight pro, because my cousin who I'd started with, he was fighting pro, and I was like, I want to fight like he's doing with no pads, just the gloves, that's it. And Richard was like, you're 14, you can't do that. And anyway, a couple of weeks went by and he went, listen, we've got a kid here, he's 16. We can say you're 16 and it's on a show in Manchester. They've asked if I've got a 16-year-old. I've said, yeah. So we're going to let you fight your first pro fight. So I've turned up to the weigh-in, got on the scales. I looked at this kid, I thought, he don't look 16, he looks a bit older. I've watched him get off the scales, walk out the building, and he jumped in his Golf GTI and drove himself off. I thought, oh, he's definitely not 16. He ended up being 19, but I ended up knocking him out in first minute at first round. And then once you've done something like that, and it were on quite a big show at the time, in a big sports arena hall, and at those shows were probably some of the biggest ones in the country, and I was right down at the bottom of the card, but they were busy shows and everyone saw me do it. So once I've done that, there's then no way I can go back to fighting kids and juniors who were my own age. So that were it then. I was just fighting grown men from then on.
Were there whispers of this like 14, 15-year-old going around fighting pro fights? Did you?
Yeah, a few people knew, but this is like, I'm 39 now. This is like 25 years ago or something. I don't think anyone cared back then. We did something like this now, we're getting shut down, do you know what I mean? Yeah. You'd have, it'd be bad if we did that now, but I don't think anyone cared back then. The thing is as well, I looked a lot older than I was. It wasn't like I looked like a 14-year-old. I had like a bit of a beard and stuff like that. Or I looked rough and ready to go. So yeah, that were it then. Once I had that first pro fight, that were it. I think my second fight after that, I fought a 28-year-old, and then I beat him as well.
Did they know that they were fighting a 40-year-old?
I don't think a lot of them did at the time. The one time, right, I'd had about 12 pro fights. I'd won them all, and I fought a kickboxing world champion. I was 15 at the time. And he'd had about 30 kickboxing fights. So he was a world champion in kickboxing. Obviously, we fight Thai boxing. So this was kickboxing above the waist. So he used to getting kicked in the legs. And I stopped him in round 2 with leg kicks. And after the fight, we went to the bar upstairs and he said, oh, do you want a beer? And the guy behind the bar ID'd me. And I went, oh, I got none. And the guy who I fought went, how old are you? I went, 15. He went, oh my God, that's like child abuse. I went, well, it makes. I just beat it. So yeah, and I felt a bit smug when I was doing that. But yeah, he were absolutely gutted when he found out I were only 15. So yeah, I can imagine it's a bit of a hit to your confidence when if someone's 15 and you've just been TKO'd by him.
What was the British guy, English guy? What was the first experience with the culture? The culture of Muay Thai and like embracing that. Did that happen straight away, or did you was that once you went over to Thailand?
No, to be fair, Richard, my coach, he's always he's spent a lot of time in Thailand himself and stuff like that. So like when we were as a gym here fighting, we'd always wear the Moncon round his head and the projects on his arm and like keep the traditional side of it. There's a dance that you do before the fight called the Y Crew. Richard always made us do that just to keep the traditional side of things going. And a lot of gyms, they neglect that, but we've kept that here. But obviously when you go to Thailand and you, for the first time, and you see how they train and then in the stadiums, how they fight, it's a little bit different to watching them fight over there because the scoring system's a little bit different and stuff like that. And when you slowly start to increase your level and you start to fight against the Thais, and you have to learn how to play the game the way they can play it, because you can't rely on our Western style here because it's heavy on boxing, heavy on leg kicks. And if you don't get someone out of there, if you don't knock them out, you're not going to win a fight on points like that. So you have to get used to their traditional way of scoring. The body kicks score higher, the off-balancing techniques to sweep. The clinch work is massive. It's a massive thing over there. And if you don't clinch for like 30, 40 minutes every day after you've trained, when you come across a Thai champion, when they grab you around your neck, you're not getting them off you. So yeah, it's a bit of an eye-opener when you go over there for the first time.
Was it scary? Because you went over there quite young, right?
Yeah, so it wasn't scary the first time I went to train because I was just getting used to everything. What was scary was when I went to live there when I was 18, 19. I went to live there and I lived in the gym with the Thais. I lived on a mattress on the floor. And for the first 6 months, I got bullied. I was the only white guy who was living in the gym. There were white guys training there, but I was the only one who was living in the gym with them. And they were living on a mattress on the floor like they were doing. And I think they were just like, oh, is this guy just moving into our spot? And they just beat me up every single day. Like the old cliche saying, respect is earned. And I had to earn it out there. And I think that like helped build me as a man that I've become, because like my mental strength and I've taught me not to quit and things like that, because there were many times in that like I just thought, what am I doing here? I'm just getting battered every single day. They don't even talk to me most of the time. I know there's a language barrier, but they weren't really paying attention to myself. And then after about 6 months, when we were sparring and stuff like that, one day I just noticed, thought, hang on a minute, I'm holding my own here every day. And then after that, they started to like, they'd sit down and they'd eat with me and they'd sit around and they'd chat with me and we'd go off and do things together with the Thais instead of me just going off with the other Western fighters and stuff like that. And I got like welcomed into their culture and their way of life and everything like that. But again, I had to earn the respect to doing that. And that was a very, very tough 6 months. And every time I won a fight, they'd be like buzzing and happy, and I got welcomed in. I mean, there's so many fighters who would probably just think, oh, you know what, I'm off to another gym where there's more Western fighters or something like that. Got out with it, but I was completely out of my comfort zone, and I think that's a life lesson for everyone. Like, if you want to excel in something, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
100%, yeah. I think just even the idea of going out to Thailand and sleeping on a mattress, I think like that speaks to that sort of character trait you have. Does anything stand out when you say they would beat you up and all that kind of stuff? Like, does any like a particular session stand out?
Yes.
Or moment? Yeah.
So what they used to do is, so every morning we were meant to go run 10K around the park and then come back and we'd have to clinch. And I found out what they were doing, and this was nearly every single day, and I didn't notice at first. So we'd get to the park and I'd shoot off around the park, come back, I'd be tired from my run, and then they'd all just take turns in clinching me, and I'd just get thrown on the floor every 30 seconds, getting my neck ripped off and getting kneed to death. And then one day, one of the other guys who was in the gym with me, he said, you realise they're going to the park and they're not even running. They're just watching you run all the way around, walking back to the gym, pouring a bottle of water over the head so the manager thinks that they've ran. So the gym owner just thought they'd been running, and then they're just waiting for you to come back, knowing you're tired, and they're just slinging you all over the place. And I bet I was a laughing stock for months of them doing that. And eventually they started, when I got the respect a little bit, started running with me and stuff then. And I think they must have thought that was hilarious for a good month or so, just slinging me all over the gym like an empty tracksuit.
Yeah. But it kind of had your pants down there.
Yeah. You know what? I right to respect it as well. I'm like, damn, why did I think of that? Yeah.
You know, with Richard, you said this place is, he embraced the culture, one of the top Muay Thai gyms in the whole of Europe.
Yeah.
Is there a distinct difference between if you went out to a Muay Thai gym, the style, the way they teach, and this gym, or has this gym embraced it and that's why you guys are one of the top, or have you got like a unique style here? We
do try and embrace it as much as possible, but try and put a bit of a European spin on it as well, and as well as his own bad company spin. Like I say, Richard spent a lot of time in Thailand himself. All of our coaches have all spent a lot of time in Thailand. So we try and bring a little element of that into this gym. Like, you'll have seen, like when Zombie, the young kid on the pad this morning, will get made to kick, just non-stop. That's a Thai style type of endurance and fitness thing that we're bringing into the gym. But in Thailand, it's the heat, which like absolutely kills you. Then you'll have like 8 or 9 different pad men who are only pad men just in the gym at the same time. Obviously here, you have to have a partner and pad up because there's so many people in this gym. Like, there's like 50 of us in the class here, so everyone has to learn how to hold pads herself and things like that. So there are elements that we do bring in, but then we have to put our own spin on it as well.
Do you remember the first time fighting over there? Like, was that a different experience? And yeah, if you recall it at all.
Yeah, I do remember my first fight over there. I was 18, 19-ish, and I just lost the fight. I went my first 29 pro fights unbeaten. and I just lost a fight to a Thai champion. And I went over to Thailand, and I'm thinking, right, I cannot lose again here, because that like were a massive like blow to my ego, my self-esteem, everything like that. Because I'd won 29 in a row. I'd knocked a lot of them out. I'd fought a lot of European champions, and I'd fought some Thais who were good fighters, but they weren't elite fighters. And I fought this Thai champion, and he came over, and I knocked him down in round 2, and he got up, he smiled at me, and he beat me within an inch of my life. And it was like the worst, still to this day, one of the worst batterings I ever had in a fight. I was pissing blood after. He cut me with an elbow. It was really, really bad beating that he gave me. And I remember thinking, right, how am I going to deal with these type of guys? That's why I went over to live in Thailand, because I thought, this is the standard that I'm going to have to deal with. I've got 2 options here. I either just drop back down and then do what I've been doing, and I go another 29 fights unbeaten, just fight these Europeans, fight the okay Thais. Or if I want to make it, and if I want to be one of the best fighters on the planet, I want to be known, I'm going to have to do something here, and I'm going to have to go live over there, train how they train, and be able to fight how they fight and do it how they do it. And that's what I did. And then the first time I fought over there, I thought there were a lot of pressure on me, because I just thought, I've just lost a fight here, and I want to impress the new gym owner. I don't want to let anyone down and stuff like that. What he said to me before that fight, I say it to anyone who's fighting from this gym now, because I'll never ever forget it. Before the fight, I said to him, he said, are you all right? I said, I'm nervous. I said, I don't want to, I want to impress everyone in gym, and I want to impress you. And he said, listen, win, lose, draw, it doesn't matter. As long as you fight your hardest, fight your heart out, don't quit, and enjoy yourself. He said, that's all that matters. And I went, do you know what? It just took a weight off my shoulder. I thought that's some of the best advice I've ever had. Because as long as you can look yourself in the mirror after the fight and go, you know what, you didn't quit then, you didn't give up. Yeah, you might have lost, but it don't matter. The better man beat you on the night. On to the next one. As long as you can do that, the result doesn't matter. As long as you get in and out of that ring after the fight, you look yourself in the mirror and you go, you give everything. You couldn't do anything else. The result doesn't really matter then, because you know you give it all. And I went on. I won the fight in round 4, and then I had about 5 more fights for the gym in Thailand, and I won all them, all on the bounce as well, and had a bit of a good run. And then I had a fight in Rajadamnern in one of the stadiums, and we were against like a top ranked fighter, and that was my first loss in Thailand.
That quote as well is applicable to everything. Like it's one of those things I always say to like friends and people who we work with is, if you get to the end of the day, you can look in the mirror and say, you know, you've tried your best, you've done your best, then to me, that's really living life to your full potential. Was there a moment where you've looked yourself in the mirror and, you know, been disappointed and thought that maybe you didn't give it your?
Yeah, because there were a fight in my mid-20s, and I fought a really elite high level Thai champion, and I just cut a few corners in training. I'd got a bit complacent, and I got smashed to bits, and I was like, well, you brought all that on yourself. I've got no one else to blame me other than yourself. And I literally never ever did it again after that fight. Obviously, I've had 120 fights, so and the one that I did do it in, you got found out. There's so many ways to lose in this fight, and you come across someone who's at the highest end of this game, elite level, and they aren't cutting any corners, you're going to get found out and you're going to get hurt. And I got absolutely smashed to pieces. Luckily, we had a rematch about 6 months later, and I've put that loss correct. And then again, ever since that time, then I never ever cut any corners in training. I always make sure I'm the first one through the door, the last one to leave, and I always try and set a good example for all the younger fighters, because I never ever want to have that feeling again after that fight when I was disgusted with myself, thinking, what on earth were you doing here? You've got a chance here against this top Thai champion. You were in it for a world title as well, and I thought you had a chance here to show that you are in that elite level. What if you don't ever get that chance again? Luckily, I got a rematch and I put it right, but yeah, I was disgusted with myself after that, and I vowed, I made a deal with myself in the mirror, like, you will never ever do this again, and I never did.
You know, seeing the footage come out of some of the Thai gyms, like you say, like, or even the young lad you was working with today, like throwing the kicks, like some of the training looks absolutely brutal, you know, really difficult stuff. What's the mentality like for Muay Thai, but also for the Thai fighters coming from like the sort of origin of where the culture is? What's that mentality supposed to be like as a fighter? So
the Thais as well, especially a lot of them, they're getting brought into the gym at 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're coming from nothing. The parents are putting them into the gym just so they can earn a little bit of money, and they're literally fighting for survival, them guys. And that's why they are so, a lot of people say the Thais are built different, and they are, a lot of them, because that's what they're doing. They are literally fighting to survive and to earn money for the family, and they've grown up since 7-8 years old, and they've had hundreds and hundreds of fights, and it's just second nature to them. They're doing it to survive and literally to get by and to provide a better life for all their family. Obviously, the majority of people over there are doing it because they enjoy it and they love it, and it's a hobby. So you have to, like when you're fighting against them guys and stuff, you have to respect what you are getting in the ring with. And if you haven't not worked as hard as they have, and if you are treating it like a hobby, you're not going to get to the elite levels. You have to live and breathe it, and you have to just let it take over your life and be obsessed with every single aspect of it. You can't cut any corners. You have to be up every morning running the 10K like they're doing. Well, they're supposed to doing when they're not cheating and pouring water on their head. But yeah, you have to embrace the full aspect of everything, because if you don't, then like I said again, you'll get found out, and you won't ever be able to cut it just at that highest level.
Yeah, you're talking about guys who are doing it for survival. Did you have that mentality yourself? Like, was it survival for you when you was?
Well, when I moved over there, it was about survival, because I went over there with just the right little bit of money, and then I had to fight to pay. I had to pay the gym owner to stay there. I had to fight for my money to pay my rent. And then when I moved out of the gym, just in my own little box room in a little apartment next door to it, I obviously had to pay the rent there. It wasn't like I was getting big purses or big wages back then. I want a big name like I am now. I had to fight my way up to get everyone to know me. When I first went to Thailand, I had a big name in England and around Europe, but no one knew me over there. So I started at the bottom, and my purses were pretty small. So I had to fight like sometimes twice a month to get that money just so I could pay my rent and stuff. And then even when I'm not fighting for that much money, I was gambling on myself just to bump my money up and things like that. So I told a story on the last one where I bet on myself and lost all my own money, lost all the trainers' monies in the gyms, and then I had to fight again 3 days later. So that's the type of like the craziness that I was doing back then. And there's a lot, like obviously now, do you know what, I look at young fighters now, and a lot of them are getting paid really well. All these social media, and like they might have had like, I'd have had what 35, 40 fights around that time. And there's fighters with that now who are like well known all over the world because of social media and stuff. And I think to myself sometimes, I wish social media were around back then to catch some of this stuff that I was doing. But then I think to myself, well, I'm actually glad it wasn't, because if it was and I was getting extra money in that, I wouldn't have all these crazy stories. I've got life experience. And like, you know what I mean? Like some of these fighters, they'll never have a chance to like live in a gym and like that and just fight twice in a week not for the because they wanted to, because he had to, and they've got all these stories of just getting taken off and fighting 3 days later and then going to Cambodia and fighting for a bit of extra money. And I've got so many crazy stories and like life lessons that I've got taught all through that time, that if I was doing what these kids are doing these days and getting all this money, yeah, it's good, everyone knows them, and it's good that they don't have to run the body through the mill and stuff. But like I said, they won't have any of the crazy stories and stuff that me and quite a lot of other fighters in my generation have got.
Yeah, and I didn't want to skip over your career. Like we said, the previous interview covered a lot of those earlier days. But now, you know, looking back now, what's the landscape changed for Western fighters, you know, in Muay Thai? Like, how's it? And I mean, you were one of the guys who's paved the way for that as well. What's the difference?
So now everyone's looking to get to one championship, and now they are paying like ridiculously well. But obviously that's a bit of a different style of Muay Thai. Than one championships, you've got 4-ounce gloves on. It's only 3 rounds unless it's a title fight. It's scored a little bit different, but that's like the benchmark what everyone wants to get to now, because that's everyone. If you're on one championship, you're a superstar. You're fighting live on Sky Sports. You're fighting in 15,000 sold out arenas. Everyone's going to know who you are, and you're getting paid well, and there's chances for massive bonuses, and that's what a lot of these young fighters they're aiming for. But I don't think a lot of them should aim for that right away. Because with all that and stuff, with all those accolades, becomes the damage to your hands, damage to your face, and you don't get to fight that often. If I was trying to coach one of our fighters now, I'd be saying, right, let's get you to about 25, 26-year-old, get as many fights as you can under your belt, just fight, get the experience, fight in Thailand, fight around Europe, go all around here, get as much experience as you can, and then we'll go to one championship after, because the money's not going to go anywhere, it'll still be there. So that's what I'd be pushing people to do. But obviously you've got a young 17, 18-year-old, had a few knockouts, they want to get on the big stage, and I don't blame a lot of them for doing that. It's just if I was managing a young fighter, I'd push it a little bit different, because I think when I look back at how I fight and how the way I used to fight, my career, if I'd have gone to one championship, say in my mid-20s when I were in my prime, and I was smashing a lot of like the top ties to bits when I was around that age, I wouldn't have had a long career because there's no longevity in the way I fight in 4-ounce gloves. My hands would have been smashed to pieces. I'd have probably been brain dead, and I've had the career that I've had now. So I'm glad that I did get to still be part of one championship, still part of the biggest stage, and have some of the craziest fights. I won Fight at Year on 2022 and things like that on one championship, and I won a big bonus. I'm glad I got to do all that, but I'm glad it's at the back end of my career as well, because if I were fighting the way I fight, if I were doing that all the time in 4-ounce gloves, I don't think I'd have had the longest career that I've had. I wouldn't have made it to 39 anyway.
Did it mean something when you got signed with one, or when you had your first fight?
Yeah, definitely. It was. It's like I'd had a long career, and I didn't get signed till I was about 34, maybe 33, 34. Yeah, 34. And we're like all this journey that I've had. It was all just to get to that point, and it was a shame. It was bittersweet. It was a shame that it came at the back end of my career and that they didn't get to see me quite in my prime. Even though like I had some good wins, some good knockouts, and I still got to win Fight of the Year. If I were in my prime when I was smashing out Europeans and ties to bits and stuff, then that'd have been nice for the entire world to see live on Sky and all around America. But yeah, it is what it is, and I'm just glad that I did get to have a small part in at the end of my career.
I had a question actually that I'd written out about the punishment. It was actually in reference to the last fight that you just had. But you said you just can't take the punishment anymore. But how would you describe the punishment, especially when you're specifically talking about the one fights?
Well, I was looking back on that yesterday, and I was looking at the highlights of that fight, and I was thinking, what were I doing in there? I said I couldn't take the punishment. I'm not surprised fighting like that. I was just getting involved in like just elbows, and I wasn't moving my head. I wasn't even trying to move. I was just content on just trying to go to war. And after having 2 years out of the ring with a horrible injury, I'm not surprised I couldn't take the punishment that I was doing in that fight, because there was no thought process in what I was doing whatsoever. I just went to war with a fighter who was renowned for going to war, and I lost at his game because I played straight into his hands. So I don't know whether I'm a bit hard on myself about not being able to take the punishment. I think that was just a ridiculous choice of how to fight that fight, but I just got caught up in it, and I thought, right, I'm going to knock him out. And then I didn't knock him out, and I got stopped myself. But yeah, like I do say, it is in those small gloves, the damage is a lot more. Like you've got in MMA, the striking level is okay, and they take a lot of damage in them fights. But when you put a Muay Thai fighter, who are, in my opinion, who are the best strikers on the planet, you've seen everyone how they kick the pads and punch the pads. It is vicious, and you put them in 4-ounce gloves, the damage that they are going to do to each other is insane, really.
It looks like one of the most brutal, ways of viewing the sport. Like on the one fight, it's like some of you guys, the way you come out of those fights is just like a train hit you. Like it's crazy, man. Just, in preparation for that fight, what was the camp like? Like, what was the process like? Did you think you were going in this and you were confident of getting the win? I mean, I know that's your mentality always, but
yeah, I thought we were going to go in there and knock him out. I honestly thought that it would come down to trading blows like we did, and I'd be the one who came out on the end. You know what? When you've got them 4-ounce gloves on, if you meet someone in the middle 50-50, that's all it is, 50-50. It's going to be you or him, and unfortunately, it was me. And I was thinking, he's fought 6 times in the last year. In those gloves on one championship, he's active, he's been taking punishment. I'd been out for like nearly 2 years with a horrendous knee injury. I'd not been taking the punishment. I wasn't as sharp as I probably was going to be after a 2-year layoff, 39. And even though I felt really sharp and good in there, and then when it came down to it and we started trading, and there were some really good moments we started training, he managed to walk through the shots and I didn't. And whether that's because I'm a little bit older and Father Time's caught up, or whether I've been out of the ring for 2 years, either way, coming back off that and coming to nearly 40 years old, I just didn't think it'd be wise for myself to be taking too much more damage in those 4-ounce gloves, which is why I laid my gloves down at the end. And as hard as that was, to know that I'll never go into like that arena had 15,000 people in it. I've never known an atmosphere like it, and the ovation that I got from the American fans when I came out, like that was the biggest and the best one I've ever had in my career. And it was just a shame that it ended like that. But again, I don't think it'd be wise for me at this point to carry on taking that sort of damage in those gloves. especially when I'm going to be coming into the second. Fighters have chapters and they've got a shelf life, and there's only so far you can go and there's only so far you can push it. My next chapter, I don't want to just think, I'm done with this now. What should I do? I don't want to sit around all day. I want to be in the gym, helping all the young ones coming through. I want to be sparring with them all the time. I still want to train as hard as possible and put my own training in and keep myself fit and strong. I want to hold pads every day. I don't want to have all my hands smashed to pieces. I don't want to be that guy who can't string a sentence together. I want to do so. Obviously with the Hitman Fight League, which is my own promotion, we've got a decent TV deal now, and part of that is me hosting it. If I'm on there slurring the words and I can't talk, and so who's going to want to watch that? You know what I mean? So I just I had to think about what I'm going to do in the second part of my life, because I've been prepping for this for a while. I knew it was going to come, and as hard as it was laying them gloves down, I think it was the right decision.
It was pretty iconic. I mean, it made, headlines all over the place when the gloves got laid down. At what point did you know you was going to do that? Like, did you say going into the fight, I'm going to lay my gloves down?
No, I just decided just after the fight, I thought, you know what? I said that because I was so sure I was going to win. In my head, I saw nothing other than me knocking him out. And then when I didn't, I was like, well, where do I go from here, really? It's like, do you know what I mean? I'm 39. I've had a lot of hard fights. I've took a lot of damage. Do I really need to keep taking this damage when I've got all that? It was just all coming in. And maybe I was a little bit hard on myself, because I was thinking, at the time, I was thinking, would those shots have knocked me down? And I didn't think they would knock me down a few years ago when I were in my prime. And then a lot of people said, it's just then you find gaps in them small gloves that you wouldn't do in 8-ounce gloves. And when you don't see one of them shots coming, it causes damage. Like I got my nose like horrendously broken in that fight, and doctor had to snap it back afterwards. And I was thinking, do I need to still be doing this shit? I'm 39 years old. Do I need to be getting my nose snapped back in place from doctor and stuff? And I just thought, like, no, I don't. Not in the small gloves. And as much as I want to keep doing it, I know I'm not going to get any younger. I'm not going to get any stronger. I'm not getting any faster. And I don't want to be that guy who puts who has an incredible career and then tarnishes it at the end by going on like a 3 or 4 fight losing streak and getting knocked out to people that in his prime he'd have wiped the floor with. I got to fight a legend in Sexan, the guy I fought. He's a proper warlord. He's been one of my favourite fighters for years. And we got to stand in the middle of the ring. We swung it out. And when I got knocked down, I kept getting back up. And do you know what? I got a lot more respect from that fight and love off everyone, because I kept getting back up and trying to fight than most people do when they win. And I realised that over the years as well, because it started off like when I was younger thinking, need to win a belt, want to win a belt. Then it started off, I need to win a world title. Then it started off, right, I need to win this world title and that world title. And the older I've got and the wiser I've got, I've realised it's not about belts, it's not about titles. It's about winning the respect of your peers and the love of the fans and stuff like that. And if you get up when no one thinks you can, and even if you lose, but if you go down swinging, you will win that from them. And I can go away knowing that I've won the respect and the hearts of all the fans and stuff. And that means more to me than any world title.
Yeah, I love that mentality. Back to what your coach told you that first time, getting into that fight. It's the exact same thing, just giving it your all. In research for this, I was watching the James English podcast that you did. It was about 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was. And in that you said you struggle with the idea of letting go of this. You struggle. How have we got to today? Like, was there dark moments or difficult moments in like realizing you might have to put the gloves down at some point?
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, because I've still got one from my last fight left, and I'm like, right, I've still got one last fight. You can just concentrate on that. Let's worry about it. If you lose your mind after, we'll worry about it then. But I'm lucky really, because since then I've been putting loads of other things in place. Like, we've got the new gym opening, and I'm now a co-owner of Bad Company. So I'm obviously going to have that to put energy into. I've got the Hitman Fight League promotion, which it's just blown up. It's gone absolutely massive. And don't want to blow my own horn or all that, but we're the biggest promotion in UK already. And we've only been around for about 18, 19 months. And we've had about 5 shows, and they're just getting bigger every time. We've just got a TV deal. They want me to host it and things like that. So at least I've got things where I can take my energy. Don't get me wrong, none of it is ever going to compare to this, and nothing will ever compare to being under them lights and being in a fight camp. And at least with the new gym though, I'll still be able to come down, and even when all the other fighters are in a fight camp, I'll still be involved in it. will be part of the sport. I'll still be part of it with them. I'll still be in front of a camera talking about it. I'll still be doing what I love. It'll just be the hard part, like not being the guy under the lights and having that buzz of getting your hands raised, because no, that's a drug on earth that nothing can compare to. Like, and that's what I've been chasing since I was 14. Like, getting your hands raised, that's the drug. Like, you're just chasing it and chasing it and chasing it, and that's what's hard to let go. But at the same time, I'm not as arrogant enough to think I can just keep going and keep winning. And I know I'm slowing down. I know I'm getting a little bit older. I know my reactions are a little bit slower. And like I said, I don't want to be that guy who starts getting knocked out. And you see guys like doing it all the time, like someone like Tony Ferguson in UFC and stuff. I'd like him to see him retire, but he just refuses, and he just won't stop, and he keep going and going. And I don't want to be that guy who just keeps where everyone else is saying, hey, he should probably retire. I want to go out on my own terms, which is why I'm having one more fight in the UK to say goodbye to the UK fans.
Yeah, I mean, when I messaged you, I was like, I want to do a video of The Last Dance. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And have you talk about it. So, like, what's the mentality going into the fight?
I honestly can't wait. It's because there's such a difference between fighting in the One Championship 4-ounce gloves, which I've been doing for the last 3-4 years, to 8-ounce gloves. And I feel like in the 4-ounce gloves, because it's just so wild and everyone's going for knockouts and everyone's trying to punch because you got 4 ounce on, and everyone's going for the bonus money because there's massive bonuses on One Championship, a lot of the skill level gets taken away and people forget about it. I'm looking forward to fighting in the 8-ounce gloves again and bringing my skill level back out, and because I think people forget about that. Obviously I've had not a lot of knockouts, and I'm a powerhouse, but I've got a like really high IQ when it comes to fighting and stuff, and I'm really looking forward to showing that again. I'm also looking forward to not smashing my hands into a million pieces and just having boxing gloves on as well. So yeah, and to have like the UK fans there as well, and it's absolutely insane. We put the tickets online, we announced the fight, and pretty much 3/4 sold out in a week. I don't think that's ever happened in UK Muay Thai before, so that absolutely blew me away. Like, I know that I've got a good reputation with the fans, and we've got a great relationship, and they've supported me all these years. But for all those tickets to go in a week, it absolutely blew me away. That and to get to do it on my own show, get to headline my own show in Manchester, where I had my first fight. So it started there and it'll end there. So yeah, I think it'll be a special moment. And I didn't want to have my last fight. My dad's my biggest supporter, and he couldn't get out to the Denver fight because we've got 2 massive German shepherds. And when I go away at a fight, my missus always comes with me, and he has to look after him. My mum's only like 5 foot and she weighs about 48 kilos. She can't take him for a walk. So my dad was devastated. So my mum came out to Denver and watched the fight instead. And that was another reason I can't have a fight without him being in there. We're there in my first ever fight. He's followed me to Japan. He's come to Italy. He's come all over the world watching me. I thought, I can't have my last fight without him there.
Yeah, a full circle is a great way of describing it,
Yeah.
man. Have you thought about, I know you said you really focused on this, but what does after look like? Like, in terms of more the, like, I don't want to use this sort of phrase, but I think like mental health aspect of it, what do you think that looks like?
Yeah, so this is where a lot of fighters come unstuck, and that's why I've spent so much time building my seminars, my website, and getting involved in this new gym and trying to get like commentary panel work done. I've done a little bit of media work with One Championship, and I've tried to build a lot of other like avenues to keep my brain busy. Because what happens to fighters is they're under the lights all their career, they're that guy, and then all of a sudden people forget you like that. Because there's always someone, as you leave, there's someone who just takes your space, and then he's the guy, and you sort of like left like, oh, well, I'm still here, I'm still not fighting, but they don't care. People want to see you in that ring, smashing someone to bits or getting smashed to bits. That's what they want. And it's sad that a lot of fighters, they'll just get pushed out and they ain't got anything else then. And that's why a lot of them get lost. A lot of them turn to drugs, a lot of them turn to drink. And I think that's why it's important that I've spent all this time sorting all these different things out, where I'm going to have all these different like ways to put my energy into, like the new gym, helping all the fighters, coaching in the new gym, my seminars. I'll still be able to travel, I'll still be able to teach, still be able to coach. I've built a really good reputation for myself as a coach over the last few years. And you know what, it was tough doing that, as well as being a professional fighter, traveling and doing seminars and helping other people and going to other gyms, as well as trying to be in a fight camp. That was tough, but it's going to all be worth it when I retire, because at least I've got that to fall back on, and everyone knows how good a coach I am now. And again, another thing is, not many fighters make good coaches. So I'm lucky that it's my fighting ability sort of translated into my coaching ability as well, because not many fighters can do that. So I've been lucky with that aspect.
Yeah, I think with athletes especially, fighters included in that, is if you're a one-dimensional fighter, that's all that you do. When you stop doing it, you kind of lose who you are, the essence of who you are. And I'd say the for yourself, like the coaching and all those kind of things have always been present for as long as, you know, we've spoken. The fighter's mentality, that's, you know, now that, you know, you're coming sort of to the back end of your career, what would you say the fighter's mentality is in terms of something that can be applied to your day-to-day life? Like, you know, somebody who is not in a ring, but those lessons that you take away, like how can they be applied into day-to-day life? How would you describe it?
Do you know what? There's so many like prerequisites that it takes to be a fighter that you can take into everyday life. There's loads, like we mentioned earlier, just as long as you can finish at the end of the day and look yourself in the mirror and go, I had a good day then. I did all right then. You did well done. Just things like that. Just what does it take to be a fighter? Hard work, discipline, perseverance, all these things. If you do this in any walk of life, whether you want to be a fighter, a lawyer, or a musician, if you work hard at anything, that will work out in no matter what walk of life you're doing. And that's what I'll take. The discipline that fighting teaches you, it teaches you have to be disciplined. You have to persevere. Don't quit when it gets hard, no matter how tough it gets in a fight. And like you might feel like giving up and you might be getting beaten within an inch of your life. I have found if you persevere, that's when the magic happens. And that goes to anything. So like I'll be taking all these lessons that I've learned from being in the ring and fighting and putting them to whatever I do afterwards. I'll take the same mentality as a fighter into my coaching with the guys. And if I'm pad working someone, I'll train them how I used to get trained, and I'll take all them little bits and bats over with me. But yeah, if you take those like little tips and everything, I don't think you can go wrong.
Something you said there is something, again, I've said to people completely outside of the idea of sports or combat, is for me, my experience, when something gets really, really difficult, really hard, and you're almost at the point of like giving up, if you persevere, the best stuff comes after that.
Yeah.
Does that relate to a fight game? Like, have you found that? I mean, obviously sometimes if you're out, you're out, but.
So in 2022, I had a fight and won championship, and I won fight of the year, and I won a 100k bonus for it, because in the first round I got knocked down with a head kick. You're only about a minute into the fight. I got up, he ran in and he knocked me straight back down with a punch. 3 knockdowns in this fight, you finished. I got up again and he ran in to finish me. I knocked him down, he got up, I knocked him down again, he got up, I knocked him down again. So we had 5 knockdowns in 90 seconds. One fight a year in 2022, you can watch it, Liam Harrison versus Muay Thai. And that's what I always say about that fight. Don't quit. And I think I got hit that hard on the second knockdown. If I'd have just stayed down, I don't think anyone would have batted an eyelid. You can think, well, no, he could have done about that. But I knew I could get up. I knew to myself, and even if I'd have just stayed down, then how can I look myself in the mirror after? You have to go back, and then you have to look and say, you could have probably go up then. What's going on there? But I didn't. I did get up, and I ended up winning fight of the year, 100 grand bonus, and it also got me a title fight afterwards. So all the bonuses that I got from getting up and trying, like we mentioned earlier, that's when the magic happens. Like just when you think you're on the verge of losing or quitting or getting knocked out, just persevere. And like I said, something magical can happen, and it did for me in that fight. So
what was the ingredients that got you back up? Like what was the thing that you would say that is the reason why you got back up? Was it understanding that it would lead to something positive, or?
Because it's the right thing to do. As a fighter, you're in there. You're in there to entertain the fans as well as like enjoy yourself and all the other things. And they pay to watch a warrior fight his heart out until he can't fight no more. So I knew that I could get up. If I'd have just stayed down, how could I look myself? Like I said, how can I look myself in the mirror, knowing that I still had a little bit left to give? And when he came in to finish me off, all it took is one shot. And the tables turned like that. Just one split second, one mistake from him, one big punch from me, and that's all it took. So knowing that I still could throw a punch, if you can land a punch in a fight, it's all it takes one. You've seen it in many fights so all over the years where people get battered from pillar to post and then one punch changes it. I know that in my head. Most people know that. And as knowing that in my head, if I didn't apply that into a fight, like you can't look yourself in the mirror and you can't call yourself a professional fighter, because when there's people watching you to fight until the very end, until you can't fight anymore, if you don't stick to that moral obligation that you've got to these people and to yourself and to your coaches who spent all this 8 weeks training you, putting all their effort into you and killing you in the gym and spending time away from their family to be with you, if you have to turn around to them afterwards and look them in the eye knowing that you probably could have got up and give a little bit more, that's something that I don't ever want to have to do. And I think that's what pushed me through. I've just bit down on my gum shield, got up, and LS9 took over.
Is there a distinction between warriors and fighters?
Yeah, you'll see there's some fighters who are like good fighters, but I have, and that, don't get me wrong, they get to the elite level from how talented they are, but I've seen them crumble, and I've seen, you know what, fighting's a very, very intimate thing, and especially if you're in there with someone who's the elite level, you share very intimate moments with them, you get to look them right in the eye, and they're looking back at you when you are hurting each other, and you can see just slight little grimaces, and some of them will just bite down on the gum shield and they'll keep fighting, and some of them they'll crumble and they'll quit, and they might not quit like as in, right, I've had enough, but you'll just see that fight in them leave, and some of them will just keep pushing and pushing no matter how bad they're getting hurt, no matter how much damage they're taking, and they will just have no... They'll just know, like, they don't care about their own physical safety or anything like that. They'll just keep trying their hardest. That's a warrior. That's someone who fights right to the very end, knowing, even someone who knowing that they can't win a fight, who will still get back up. There might be like 5 rounds, in a 5-round fight, there might be 4 rounds down and get knocked down in the last round, but they'll still get back up because it's the right thing to do in a fight. That's a warrior, someone who's pushing right to the end. Even though they know they can't win, but they still won't quit, they'll still keep going. And like I say, they might think they can't win, but like I said, some magic might happen if you don't quit.
To the layman, if I'm watching a fight on TV, for the most part, I can't tell if the fight's left somebody, like if like sort of that mentality's left them or it's leaked out of them. Can you see that in subtleties? Like, when you're stood there, can you see when the fight drops out of somebody and you can kind of feel it?
Yeah, 100%. You like I said, it's an intimate thing. You're this far away from another man. You're watching his breathing patterns. You're looking in his eyes. You're looking for any sort of grimace. You're looking for his face just to change that little bit, just to see. You're looking for any sort of edge you can get over him. And it's quite a nice feeling when you do feel that, to be fair. When you're in there and you throw a massive punch, a body shot, or a leg kick, and you see that little part of their soul just zap from their body. So you can tell, and it's pretty noticeable when you're this close up to someone and you're looking just for any sort of little difference in their demeanor, just how it's going to change. So yeah, it's pretty easy to tell when you're that close.
How vicious is your mentality when you're in the ring with somebody?
Like I said, I'm in there. I'm not a point scoring fighter. Although, like I said earlier, I've got a good IQ when I fight. I am trying to hurt someone. I kick hard and I punch hard and I'm throwing everything with bad intentions. So yeah, I am, as well as trying to score points, which is what this game is all about. I'm trying to hurt them and I'm trying to knock them out. I am in there to win by knockout, and you have to have that mentality, I think. Like, if you're in there just trying to score points and just like not get hurt and not pick up damage, there are some fighters who are good at that, but they're not entertaining to watch. And like I said earlier, if you want to get this good reputation and this good relationship with the fans and the crowd, and you want them to love you, that's how you've got to be.
Has it ever been, like maybe a ref didn't step in or anything like that, and you've been concerned about doing damage to somebody?
Yeah. There was a fight. It's on One Championship. I knocked this kid out from Malaysia and I knocked him down. He got up. I knocked him down again, and he like starfished. And he somehow got up before the 8 count and he couldn't walk. And I was thinking to myself, what is the ref doing here? But then I were also thinking, it'll only take one swing off him and I might go. And I ran in and I finished him and he were in a really bad way. And I were a bit worried about him then. But again, you have to, this is a fight sport, and you both know what you're getting in there for. I've seen it happen in fights where fighters have knocked someone down, thought, I'm going to win here, and just backed off and ended up getting knocked out themselves. I'm like a shark when it smells blood, you know what I mean? If I see someone slightly hurt, I am going to try and finish him. It's the ref's job to save them, not mine.
Seeing you in training, even today, the last time we filmed with you, there's like it feels like you're going 100%. Now, I don't know if you are. I don't really have a clue, but are you? Is that the mentality when are you envisioning you're in a fight? Like, how does it work where you're throwing kicks at like fight speed, fight level?
Yeah, when I'm on the pads, I am envisioning in a fight. I'm trying to throw everything. as fast, as powerful, but still have good form and good balance and not like miss my shots and stuff. But I am trying to like rip Richard or Andy straight in half through the pads. I want to see him grimace when I'm hitting him and stuff like that. I were a bit tired today. Like I said, I've not trained for a month. I'm a bit tired today with camera on me. But yeah, that's what I'm envisioning in my head. I am trying to like get a little grimace out of them, because if I know if I can make them grimace through the pads, I'm thinking, oh, that'd hurt someone in a fight. Obviously, pads is different to a fight. You're not going to throw everything full power in a fight like that, because if you don't knock them out, you're going to gas. I use the pads to get sharp, fast, explosive, and get my stamina and my gas tank up, because if I can hit the pads like that for as constant as possible, you close to a fight, I'll go full throttle 5-4 minute rounds, and I'll think if I can do that at this pace in a fight, I'm still gonna have a good gas tank.
Again, I was watching another podcast. I think it might have been the second episode you did on Joe Rogan. You done two with Joe Rogan, and he was speaking about your like viciousness and ferociousness when you're throwing a kick. What's the noises that I heard another couple of the fighters doing it today, but like yours is like
everyone's got a different noise. I think I'm renowned for my one as well. You either love it or hate it. A lot of people on Instagram and say, oh, I love Liam's war cry when he's on the pads, rah, rah, rah. And then other people will come on and they'll go, oh, I wish he'd shut up. And you know what I mean? But yeah, like I say, I'm just trying to kick as hard as I can, and that's just my noise. Like there's some girls in here who make louder noises and that. They're like, ash, ash. And that's just how it is. Like anyone who's hit the pads before, I don't know if anyone's watching, have you ever hit the pads and not breathed out or not made a noise when you're doing it? It's like there's not there. I do it just to like full exertion, full power, and then just it helps with my breathing and stuff as well.
I was going to say, yeah,
it helps with my breathing.
So is the breathing, is there anything else to it? Like the scream itself is that?
It's just to generate as much power as I can. Yeah. Anyone who's kicked pads before, they'll know that you have to do it a little bit. Mine just might be a little bit more over the top than your average fighter.
Well, it sounds, it's petrifying. Like it's proper scary, man. There was something I'd written down on the Joe Rogan podcast, because you trained with him. Was that after that or was that before?
No, we went in to meet him, and this was before the podcast. So this was the first time I met him as well. But Vinny had been on his podcast before, the guy I went on with. He's my mind coach, and he said, "Oh, Liam's with me." He said, "Do you want to train with him?" "Oh yeah, I'd love to." And I took him on pads and did a bit of work, and he nearly broke my fucking arms. He kicks that hard.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, coming from yourself. So obviously you're renowned for like your viciousness and kicking. A lot of people, you know, they talk about Joe as a podcast host. All the kicks, like some people talk about his kicks are like pretty.
If you're like me and millions of other people, you probably lead a busy life, and that's where this stuff comes in absolutely clutch. I know that I just scoop, shake, and go, and I'm ready for my day. There are other companies that are trying to do what Huel is trying to do, but they use cheap ingredients. Sometimes it requires you to take 15 pills, or preparing food, trusting supplements with subpar ingredients, and also taking 15 pills a day is just something that we don't all want to do. That's where Huel makes health possible. Black Edition has 40 grams of protein in, 26 vitamins and minerals, and every single ingredient inside this has been carefully selected by Huel's expert team. So you know you're getting the good stuff. Don't just take my word for it. Millions of other people around the world are now using Huel as part of their daily routine. People like Idris Elba, Stephen Bartlett from the Diary of a CEO, Hardest Geezer, the man who ran the entire length of Africa, was using this stuff. If you want to join the movement, go to the link down below where you can get a free t-shirt, a free shaker, and also if you subscribe to Huel, you can get 10% off every single order. This is next freaking level. Go get some.
So people don't realize that Joe's only similar height to me, about 5'7"-ish, but he's built like a silverback. He's absolutely jacked. He's massive. And then when he kicked the pads, I was like, Jesus Christ, that were hard. And because he's done Taekwondo and stuff for all these years, he's trained a bit of Muay Thai, and he's just a naturally strong, fit guy. He looks after himself. He trains every day, and he's explosive. And when you've trained martial arts all your life, you're going to take that, when you've put all this muscle mass on alongside it, you're going to have some scary power. And because he knows how to throw a proper kick, and because of how strong he is, and because he's short with a solid thingy of gravity and stuff like that, he's just explosive. And yeah, he nearly broke my arms in half. It proper like shot me.
So his kicks are on a level of like a pro fighter.
Yeah, power wise, 100%. They're a little bit different to a pro Muay Thai fighter because he's done Taekwondo and things like that all his life. But yeah, the power is there's a lot of pro fighters who don't kick as hard as he's kicked me.
Do you remember the moment where you felt like you'd put in your work fighting and you'd sort of had that commercial success or sort of recognition from like the likes of people like Joe Rogan, podcasters, and the media, social media, all that kind of stuff? Was there a moment that clicked?
Yeah, it was before I'd been on that podcast, and I remember like Joe mentioning me on a few things and stuff on it. I'd seen it on his podcast, and people kept sending me saying, "Oh, I get mentioned off Joe Rogan," and I'm like, "Wow, well, I didn't even realize he knew who I was." And then I clicked on his thing on Instagram, and I realized he was following me. I'm like, "Oh, wow." And then what happened was he shared a video of me on the pads on his main page, and he put something like Monday motivation, Liam Harrison ripping the pads to bits. And then after that, I got so many more people like jumping on my page and who have followed me since that. And that must have been about 6 years ago that now. And like there's people who messaged me still saying, "Oh, I followed you since that day." And I said, "I've loved watching your career and I wish I followed you before," and stuff like that. So like, Joe's helped a lot, really. Obviously, because the biggest podcast in the world, everyone knows people who go on Joe Rogan. So that were a massive help.
Have you found it to be a bit of a double-edged sword, like being in the limelight, social media, all that kind of stuff? Has there been downsides to it as well?
You know what? No, not really, because I feel like I get to inspire people through that. I like so many people. This blows me away because I never ever thought this would happen. The amount of people who message me regular, especially now that I've semi-retired, they're saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm gutted your career's over. I've just followed you all the time. You're the reason I got into Muay Thai." And I'm like, wow, I'm the reason you started training. And like, I've had so many people say, "Listen, I didn't even know what Muay Thai was. I just started following your page. And then I went and found a gym and you're the reason I got into it," and stuff like that. That blows me away that I can make, even if it's just a slightest improvement or change or help someone better themselves. So that's the thing that I love about social media, just being able to help and just get that little bit of, like motivation, a bit of inspiration for people like, and you just get to help motivate them and make them a little bit better and push themselves a little bit harder. And people who saying like, "Oh, never been in a gym before until I saw you, and now I love it and it's a massive part of my life," and they say thank you to you. That blows me away. I think that's a beautiful thing.
100%. It was interesting going back through the comments, because I haven't been on that video since we did it. And I was, looking through the comments, and so many people either inspired to go to their gym and then even some of them updating, like, "I've been going to the gym for 2 years now, still come back to watch this video and listen to Liam." I think there's something about a kid from an estate that connects with the majority of the UK. Most people, or a large portion of the people from the UK, are working class background, are from an estate or similar places to Leeds, and hearing somebody like yourself talk, they just connect with it. And I think it's amazing that there's somebody like you who's got a voice, who can share this, similar messages to these other people who are extremely successful, but it just connects with, people who feel maybe not as represented. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just cutting back to this was a note I wanted to ask you. We spoke about Bad Company Gym. Is it Jitty Gym in Thailand? What was that like? Is that a renowned gym as well? Is that just a gym that you happened to find? Or
so at the time when I went to live there and I lived in that gym, that were a really, really high level gym. They had like a lot of elite level fighters there and elite level trainers. And over the years, Jitty's trained some of the best Thai champions in Thailand and stuff like that. Now he's a bit older now, Jitty, and he's moved back to the countryside, and he's just like living on his farm with all these animals and stuff like that now. So I think he's a bit content about everything that he achieved as a coach. But yeah, back then it was a really, like I said, they had all these elite level fighters in there, and the ones who were beating me up daily. And I'm so grateful that I got to train around those guys at that time. And then there were elite level trainers coming in, and then he had one of the best ever fighters like from around the golden era, a Thai called Brajasak, in there as one of the coaches, and he was the worst, nastiest, meanest coach, but the best at the same time. And he actually made me cry one day. Like, yeah, honestly, a tear rolled down my face. I was training for a world title fight in Thailand. Richard will vouch for this, my coach, because he was over at the same time. Everyone were in the gym, but I'd been training hard for this fight. It was going to be I was 19 or 20. It'd be my second world title that I was going to win. And I was fighting a fighter who was really strong in the clinch. So they just ripped my neck off, threw me all over day after day after day. And there were one day, training was 3 p.m. till 6 p.m., 3 hours. You'd then go shower, dinner would be 6:45, 7. There was one day where he'd kept me outside. I'd started training at 2:45. This was 7:30. He was still throwing me around and hitting me with the pads, just me and him, just kicking me all over it. And I just saw everyone over like eating the dinner out of the corner of my eye and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, I'm starving, I'm tired, I'm broken, I've got nothing left here. And it was just going, come on, power, power. And a tear like rolled down my face because I was on the verge of just like saying, fuck off, I ain't got no left. But then I thought, do not quit, don't you dare quit, because he's going to think you're a little bitch. And like I said, I wanted their respect and I couldn't quit. And I kept going and training, but his tear rolling down my face. And I think he saw it, and then he made me do a few more kicks and he went, okay, good training, you can go eat now. I remember walking off thinking, honestly, it made me train for nearly 5 hours straight. I literally was at the point, if I'd try to do that now, I'd last about an hour and I'd be dead. I was 19, 20-ish though. So I was fit, young and strong, but even then there's a point where you're going to get broken, and I was at breaking point.
I had a very similar experience with my basketball coach growing up, and it was the same kind of thing. He's just drilling it for like 2 or 3 hours, doing the same move, and I was doing it perfectly, but he was telling me it was wrong each time, and just again, and we did this for like 3 hours, and very like close to being on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to say is that those people, those coaches, he must have seen something special in you. Like that's the reason he was pushing you to
100%. And you know what? He just kept saying afterwards. He said, "Gonna be winning. You need to win this world title. You need to win this world title." And I won. The guy came to grab me in the clinch, and it was just like a breath of fresh air because I was fresh, and it wasn't 3 of them all ragging me around. And this guy, the trainer, Rajak, he was one of the strongest humans I've ever come across in my life. He was like Wolverine or something, and he just used to sling me all over every single day. So when this guy grabbed me, I was like, oh, this is easy. And I was just throwing him around and getting him off, and that were all his game gone because he couldn't clinch me. And you know what? I look back at it now and I think, yeah, you know what? He brought a tear to my eye, but that's a memory that I can take to the grave, winning a world title in Thailand.
Looking at those gyms, having your experience over the years with all these, amazing places, amazing coaches. Now you guys, we're in this facility at the moment, but this is moving to like a much bigger facility. What's your intentions as like the coaching side, bringing the younger people through and all that kind of stuff?
So you know what? We've got like an incredible junior team here. Like all the youngsters here, Richard and Lisa, Andy, Joe, they all do an incredible job with our juniors. And we've got like a really high level junior fight team. They're all winning titles every other week. We're fighting up and down the country. Some of them have been to Canada to fight in the World Championships. We've had come back with gold medals there. Some of them were in Italy the other month and we won gold medals there. So we've got a really solid base here, and I'm looking forward to getting them all in that new gym, because as well as this just upgrading, we've got an actual gym in there, and we can then work on things like the fitness and straight after and make them into like little beasts. I want everyone in this gym looking like some out Universal Soldier, all jacked up, and like you see some little Thai kid who's ripped and all these muscles. I want all our juniors looking like that. So I'm looking forward to like getting all this new gym, all this new equipment, all the fitness equipment that we're going to have in there, just having a mix and a blend of everything, and like just upping the game. And I think it's going to, when we see everyone in this new facility, which is going to be amazing. We've also got like physio rooms above. We've got 3 in-house physios. We've got strength and conditioning coaches. We've got all the Thai boxing coaches. I think it'll make everyone just want to train that a little bit harder. It'll make them want to take their game to the next level. I think it'll just bring all the team closer, all the fighters closer, and everyone who trains to me, because we're all like a family here anyway. So I'm just looking forward to it. There's some good memories here, but it's also fucking holes in the roof. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, people are saying like, oh, it'll be a sad day when you leave there. Won't it? All them memories. I'm like, it fucking won't. It's freezing in here. I don't like it anymore. Get me out. I'm ready to go.
Hopefully we'll be coming down next month to have a look at it, and we'll finish the documentary piece on the main channel over there. Is the aim to build champions? Like, is that
100%? And that's another reason as well, knowing that this gym were coming up, that I had to have one last fight. We couldn't open this amazing facility and then me not have a fight camp in there, especially as being a co-owner. So yeah, I cannot wait to have a fight camp in that gym, because like what'll happen, like sometimes we'll all finish training here, then some of us will have to go off and do strength and conditioning at another place and stuff. We've got everything under one roof then. I'm like, if anyone gets injured, we've got physios upstairs. We've got my physios, one of the best in the business. Shout out Mofo, body mechanic. He's just going to be upstairs with some other physios that he's trained up. So I'm buzzing to have everything that I've always wanted in my whole career and not have to go across to other places. We're going to have it all in one place under one roof. It's just a shame we'll only get to do one fight camp there. But yeah, then like you said just then, is the aim to build champions. And 100%, I want that, like that. I want it to be a family style gym like we are now, but I want to have an elite level fight team, which we have, which we always had, but I want to get that bigger, stronger and better than it's ever been before.
Being one of the best gyms in Europe, like what's the goal for the gym beyond that?
Listen, I want it to be a place where people think to themselves, oh, do you know what? Flights to Thailand are a bit expensive now. Do you know what? I'll fly over and train in this amazing facility in Leeds. So people who don't really want to fork out, because flights to Thailand are expensive these days. Like the prices are hiking up. I want people to think around Europe, oh, do you know what? I've got a week here. It's a bit far to go to Thailand. I want to go to this centre in Leeds. I want it to be that sort of place where people want to travel and train, and people come up from down south and train, and people are flying in from elite fighters from other gyms are flying in just to spend a week or two here. And I want it to be that type of place where people are travelling to come and just be part and get some solid elite level training.
You know, we're speaking about the top level, but then those people who are interested in getting in. We had a comment on one of the videos. I think one of the guys who just got into fighting was maybe in his 50s. Like, what's the sort of advice for people who, you know, they see the sport, they love the sport, they listen to you speak, but they've not stepped inside a gym before? You know, it might be a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, get everyone has to walk through a gym door the first time in there. Like, the first time I walked through the gym door, I was terrified when I saw like the guys kicking the pads and stuff like that. And then within half an hour, I were on the pads myself, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. I love it. Just get in. It might be intimidating. You get some people that say, oh, I'm going to join, but I just want to get a little bit fitter first. Bollocks. That's bullshit, that. Just the hardest part is walking through that gym door. Just bite your gum shield, bite your teeth, you walk through, do it, and I promise you it will be the best decision you ever made in your life, because everyone who I know is an elite level fighter all had to do it. They all had to. No one just walked in and were amazing. I was rubbish for about first year. I was terrible, but I just loved training, and I just loved being part of this gym. I love being part of the atmosphere. And everyone's so welcoming here as well. Like, whether you're a fighter, whether you've never trained before in your life, whether you're a beginner, like I say, everyone's like a family in here, and everyone will welcome you, whether you're like I say, whether you're a world champion or you've never had a fight. So yeah, just get into the gym, and I promise you it'll be the best decision you made.
Okay, let me paint a picture. You guys are in the gym. You know, all you elite fighters that were here today, and a guy walks in mid-30s, I'm overweight, I've never, you know, done any sort of combat sport. What kind of reception would I get when I walked in?
So if you've just walked in here and everyone's kicking pads and that, it might be a bit scary at first, but if he walked in and he just stood there, like, one of us will come over and say, "You're right, mate, can we help you?" Yeah. And that's what it'll be like. The new gym, obviously, because it's a bit more upmarket and fancy, we've got a nice reception area. We'll have someone on reception. So if anyone wants to come in, they get like a bit of info or anything like that, they can come in, speak to the receptionist and just say, "Oh, can I speak to one of the coaches?" Me or one of the other ones will come over. "Can I speak to the owner?" Me or Richard will come over, and that's how it'll be.
That's what I want people to, if you are watching a video and you're interested in doing it, because there were so many people inspired last time, that it's a welcoming environment. It's a tough environment. Yeah. You're going to be welcomed into the tough environment.
So 80% of this gym don't fight. They just come because they love training, they love the social aspect, they love the fitness, they love how hard it is, they love obviously it makes them feel good, and health and everything like that. And a lot of them come for the social side of it and stuff like that. Obviously the other 20% of us are all fighters, and we're trying to accomplish other goals, but you don't have to want to be a fighter to come down and enjoy this sport. Just come in and just like be part of the family, and obviously get the hard work done and the grit. If you're thinking about joining a normal gym, I'd say come here, because this workout that you do in here, full body workout, pad work, nothing compares to the fitness and stuff that the pad working does. So I wear my chest strap when I go to the gym, and I do some horrendous fitness workouts sometimes, like really hard, like CrossFit style or assault bike or some things like that. When I wear my chest strap, when I do an hour and a half in the Thai boxing gym, it's double the calories. My heart rate's in the red zone for double the amount of time. So nothing can compare to like what you put your body through doing this. And like I say, it'll teach you discipline. You'll make new friends, and like I said, the family environment and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd 100% just say choose this over a normal gym.
Yeah, and you enjoy it. Like you're learning skills. Yeah, it's addictive. Yeah, I get that. A new sport's like one of the best ways to, you know.
And the thing is about this sport as well, you can never stop learning. I've been training 25 years. I still learn every day.
For the audience, that's again that I wanted to say is the idea of waiting to get in shape.
No, I hate that.
Just you'll get in shape doing it.
Yeah, I hate that, because so many people say, "Oh, Lee, I'm going to come down to. Can I join like classes, beginners?" Hey, come down to beginners classes. I'll just wait till I'm a little bit fitter. No. Just get down and get involved, because then you build your fitness and your base through this. Because I'll tell you something, like when you're hitting the pads, nothing compares to that style of fitness. You can go out and run a marathon, but you can come in here and hit 2 rounds at pads and you'll be dead. So if you come here and build your fitness, but if you want to join this, if this is your goal, to join a Thai boxing gym and get fit through Thai boxing and like get in shape and get strong and get good at it, just come here and start on that and build your fitness base through this and be sport specifically what you want to do. Fair enough, I know some people think, oh, I just want to lose a little bit of weight first and stuff like that. Come down here, you'll lose weight faster. Yeah. And like I say, you'll always be welcomed. Any shape, any size, you will always be welcome with open arms.
When I was playing basketball, Joe, the guy who interviewed you last time, he'd do pads with me just for fitness. And we weren't even throwing kicks. I could not keep up at all. Like I was dead, and I was very, very fit at basketball. But when it came to pads,
it's different. Yeah. So one time in here, we had a guy who was in the Guinness World Records for the 10,000 meter row on the rowing machine, and he had like the fastest time. To row 10,000 meters, you've got to be disgustingly fit.
Yeah,
that
ridiculous.
Is tough.
Yeah,
that is very tough, because I do like 500 meter sprints on rower, and I'm dead after that. So 10,000 meters as a sprinter is tough. I remember he came down here and he took his shirt off and he was all shredded and ripped up. But I bet he's got a right engine on him. 2 rounds, dead. 2 rounds. Anyway, he was exhausted. Yeah. So it's just a different type of fitness, totally.
You know, one of the things I see it was in our last conversation, but also a little bit on your social media, you draw inspiration from different places. I think you spoke about a couple of different places in the last interview. Is there anything that stands out, especially over the whole career, where you drew inspiration from that motivated you to fight,
you know
be
what?
disciplined?
I've been lucky. I draw inspiration from everything that's around me. And when I was in the pump of my prime, my career, mid-20s, I was so lucky because I was just surrounded. I think we had 8 world champions all training together in here at one point. People would have to travel. Like, you might get a gym with 2 world champions in, and then they're traveling around getting sparring with other elite guys. We had 8 in here, all training together, all pushing each other, all wanting to help the other one and stuff like that. And when I'd look around on a day where I'm exhausted, I'd look over and I'd see one of the world champions proper smashing it. I'd think, come on, get shit together now. You know what I mean? And it'd bring me up. I'd be down here and they'd help bring me back up there, and I'd like to think that I did the same for the others. And I'll never forget that, like the vibe we had for that good few years in that gym when we were all in our prime, all winning world titles, all fighting all over the world. That were a memory that I'll last forever. And that the inspiration that I got from that around that time from my own teammates, I don't think anything will ever beat that.
In anything in life, that you're trying to be successful, the circle that you keep, you know, being around people who are better than you is like one of the best things, keeping a good circle like that.
100%. That's why I went to Thailand, because I knew that if I wanted to beat these Thai champions, I was never actually going to do it unless I learned to fight how they fight. So I wanted to be surrounded by top fighters who've all had over 100 fights. And again, that were another massive thing for me that helped me get to that top level.
That idea, I think, is we see that a lot in British culture of being the big fish, you know, in a small pond. How did you break that? Like, how did you make the decision? Because obviously you go out there, you're probably going to be back to the bottom of the ladder kind of thing.
But like I said, like I'd had 29 unbeaten and then I got smashed to pieces off that Thai, and that were it. Well, then like it took, I'm going to say it didn't take long, to be fair. I knew straight away then, like I knew what I wanted to do. I'd already set my goals out and I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew I wanted to be able to hang with the best fighters on the planet. And I knew that if I didn't do this, I'm not going to be able to do that. So if I wanted to achieve the goal, that were it. There were only one thing I had to do. So it were either go do this, get out your comfort zone, get back to the bottom of the pile, or don't achieve what you want to achieve. And it's when you've got your mind set on something and your heart set on something, it's pretty easy to do it. Like I said, and it were a rough time for the first 6 months when I were out there. But then when I look back on everything that I've achieved from that, I said I wanted to hang with the best fighters on the planet. I had 3 close fights with the best fighter of all time, Sanchai. So to be able to say I had 3 fights with him where I pushed him right to the wire, and then ever since that, when I were at that age as well, consistency is key. I was at elite level from being 20 years old. I'm 39 now. I had my last fight and won championships against another legend of the sport. So to do it for 20 years, no one else has done that from England. So that's something I'm really proud of. Obviously, I've lost to quite a few fights along the way, but when you're at that level constantly and you're fighting as often as I were doing, you're going to do, there's too many ways to lose, and you're fighting elite Thai champions. Look, like the Thais will have a record of 200 fights, 150 wins, 50 loss. I think I've got about 28 losses on my record, 29 losses, something like that. Most of them have come towards back end of my career when I've slowed down a little bit, but all the others are at elite level. Or if I did something stupid and stepped out of my weight class, which I did a lot of times. But yeah, I'm proud that I can say I think I was 18 or 19 first time I fought at that world elite level. And although I got smashed to bits that one, ever since then I stayed there and I kept the consistency all the way to being 39.
Yeah, looking at other combat sports, is that clean record's like a big thing, like in boxing.
Yeah.
In Muay Thai, is that like a part of it that's quite, I guess, humbling? Yet you have to be able to accept defeat at some point.
I hope you're enjoying this interview so far and all the interviews we've been on recently as the Mulligan brothers travels around the world to make these interviews and find these inspiring stories. This was made possible by the channel members. And I want to say a massive thank you to anybody who has clicked the join button down below. That's what makes this possible. And that is why we commit to making as many documentaries and as many motivational videos as we possibly can. So thank you so much. We want to offer something back to you guys. So if you become a channel member at the moment, you will see earlier uploads and exclusive content that is only available to you guys. Interviews with Master Shahong Yi, behind the scenes magic show that we just had recently with another Shaolin warrior monk, and much, much more. So if you want to find out more, head to the join button down below. Thank you for the support as always.
Yeah, there's too many ways to lose in this. I've had nearly 30 losses on my record, but I've had like 92 wins, 8 world titles, fought all the best fighters on the planet along the way. You can't, when you're fighting that regular, there's going to be factors coming in. Some fights you're not going to go in 100%. You might have picked up a few knocks in training, a few niggles. It's not like it is now where you're fighting for loads of money. Back then I wasn't fighting for loads of money or fighting, and I had to fight regular to keep my income stream coming. Like say, sometimes I'd step out of my weight class. I might be fighting at 140 pounds one week. A few weeks later, I'd fight at 147 or 154. So yeah, I was just like dotting around. I just wanted to get as much experience as I could. I wanted to fight as often as I could. I wanted to fight the best fighters. Didn't care what weight that class that we're in. I just wanted to test myself as much as I could. And like I said, the result didn't really matter, because other than that one fight we discussed earlier, I could always get out of the ring and say, you know what, you did everything you could then. You were beaten by a better man. And like I said, that doesn't bother me. If I have to take a loss to someone who's better than me on the night, knowing I've trained my hardest and knowing I've fought my hardest, I just got outgunned on the night, I can live with that.
In your opinion, who's the greatest fighter of all time?
So the greatest fighter of this era is a guy called Sanchai. He's absolutely ridiculous. He's the GOAT of this area. Probably 350 fights, 300 wins. I fought him 3 times, and especially one of them, I took him right to the wire. I cut him with an elbow, I bust him up with some hard punches, and we had a real war. And that is in my top 3 fights in my career, even though it's a loss. Because I took the greatest fighter of this era and greatest fighter of all time, one of the greatest fighters of all time, right to the wire. And knowing that I have his respect, he said after that fight, he said, Liam, one of my hardest fights. Knowing that I did that to one of the best fighters of all time, I can live with myself with that, whether I lost or not.
How long did it take you to recognize that as a win?
I was devastated at the time, because I was hitting him with some like horrendous shots in that fight, and he was picking up points and he was just edging me out on points. But I kept hitting him with some bombs, and I was so disappointed afterwards, and I was crying afterwards. I was absolutely devastated. And then again, everyone was saying afterwards, saying, oh, you've just took the greatest fighter right to the wire. You've cut him, you did this, you were sweeping him, you were throwing him down. I was like, oh, do you know what? You're right there, actually. So it was probably like a year or two afterwards when I looked back at the fight thinking, shit, I really did that to him. I was like, I really did cut him. I really did sling him around. I really did bust him up. I really did hurt him. And I really do have his respect. So yeah, that's like I said, it's a win.
In terms of like the whole career looking back, what's the number one takeaway you would say that's the most important lesson you've learned over that time?
That what I said to you earlier, my number one takeaway is what the Thai coach said to me. It's just that, fight your hardest, fight your heart out, enjoy yourself, and everything else doesn't matter. Like I said, as long as you get out of the ring knowing you've given it all, that's okay. You can look yourself in the mirror, because you can go back to the gym, and if your technique's a bit off, you can work on it. If you got swept a few times, you can work on it. If you got outscored on points, you can learn how to score the points. If you quit, you can't teach that. You've either got it or you want. So don't ever quit, not once, no matter how hard it gets. Do not let that habit ever get into you. Don't ever, because once it's in, it's in. Always persevere, and like we said earlier, that's when the magic will happen.
quitting's a poison, man.
Yeah.
Like once you start to allow that to happen, you
don't let
realize
it
it's an
sink in.
option, man. It's terrible. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up in a sec, right? But the one thing I did want to just make sure that I've got down here, and I'll just read over these notes to make sure I've covered everything. But we're calling this piece the last dance. You know, because you're bowing out and you're doing it in a really cool way. What does is there any way you could describe what the last dance looks like? What is this fight going to look like?
So you know what? There's a massive accolade on the line as well. I'm fighting. So I'm a former WBC Muay Thai champion. We are fighting for the WBC Diamond Belt, which there's only 10 fighters on the planet who've got it. All the other ones who have it are elite level Thai champions. And I think there's a French guy and maybe a Japanese guy. So for me to join these elite level guys that only, it's like a secret club that only a few people can get in, do you know what I mean? So for me to join that at the last part of my career, this means everything to me, especially to do it in front of my own crowd in England as well. So the Spanish fighter I'm fighting, he's no pushover. He's a former WBC world champion. So he's going to want this accolade because it's a massive, massive accolade. So yeah, I'm excited. The only way I see him winning is if he comes to that ring with a shotgun or something like that. And even then I'll find a way to win. I refuse to be beaten on my last fight in front of my own crowd for this belt. Yeah, I'm excited already and it's still quite a few months away.
Would you say one of the biggest things in terms of resources right now is Liam Harrison training? Is that one of the best?
Yeah. You know what? Again, that's another thing where people message me all the time, and this is a big buzz for me because I get a massive buzz out of coaching. It's not the same as fighting. Like I said earlier, that's a drug that nothing can compare to. But out of coaching, if someone comes up to me and they say, "Oh, Liam, I used that technique that you showed me," I get so many people who message me going, "Oh, Liam, I took some of the techniques from your website, drilled them, used them in my fight, I won." I'm like, "Oh, that is amazing that I'm helping people who are over in America, Australia or wherever, even though I'm not around to be able to teach them hands-on, that they can go on my website, still pick up little tips, tricks, pointers and put them into action in a fight." That is a massive buzz for me. I love that I'm being able to do that. I think today as well, we're going to hit 50,000 members since I'm on 49,993 this morning when I looked. So I think over today, since launch about 5 years ago, we'll have had 50,000 members. So to have that amount of people who are all signing up and enjoying learning, and people are coming back, and the word of mouth's got out, and people are still like doing this, it's still signing up. That blows my mind that there's 50,000 people who've signed up around the world who are actually, even most of them aren't even in England, you know what I mean? That's amazing. Like, I still can't get my head around things like that sometimes. But like I said, the buzz I get off when someone messages going, "Oh, I use your technique in my fight, Liam, it helped me win, thank you so much." I honestly love that.
50,000, that's crazy,
Yeah,
man. Like direct help. That's wild. Okay, so yeah, if we were to sort of direct people where to go to find more stuff from you, you've got your socials as well. Is there anything else you would say? Like, is there anything else, or just direct people in the direction of where they can sort of lead on from this conversation?
Yeah, so if you're interested in getting to a gym, just listen, have a look around in your area, no matter where your area is, just Google the nearest one, make sure it's a decent reputation at the gym, do that. But if you're in Leeds and you want to come to us, at Bad Company, at Liam Badco, at Richard Smith Bad Company Gym, yeah, and if you want to do some online work, Liam Harrison Training.
Amazing. And then, yeah, the gloves, will they be laid down for one last time? Is that what you're going to do?
Most likely, yeah. Do you know what? I've had a lot of people getting onto me about doing a few like boxing style fights and stuff after. And you know what? I'd be interested in doing that because it'll still keep me in like a sort of fight camp. It'll still scratch that itch to compete. Yeah. And it'll be fun, doing a bit of like misfit style boxing.
You're opening up another conversation.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of misfit style type stuff. I've had quite a few people message me about that.
Well, Floyd was on.
Well, I was going to fight him, wasn't I? Yeah, I was going to fight Floyd Mayweather, and I tore my ACL.
Yeah.
So that if we could pick something like that back up, do you know what an honour it would be to get battered off one of the greatest fighters of all time. Because the reason I had to pull out of that fight, I tore my ACL and my MCL and my meniscus. And I was doing a bit of pad work and I was waiting on surgery for my knee because I got it kicked in a fight, and in the first round and my knee just went, and it was a sad moment for me, that, because that was for the one championship title. I got kicked about a minute into the fight and all the ligaments just tore in my knee. And I was waiting for surgery on my knee. And then I don't know how we got onto this. Some guy in London rang me and he was like, "Right, Floyd Mayweather wants to fight you." I went, what are you talking about, mate? He went, can his manager FaceTime you? I went, shut up. I said, what are you on about? Next minute, I'm on FaceTime with Floyd Mayweather's like manager who's managing this fight abroad and that. I'm like, going, yeah, we've been looking at these athletes from UK. We've got down to final three. You're in final three. And I'm like, eh? He went, are you interested? I went, yeah. Didn't even tell him like, I was due for surgery. I went, yeah, I'm interested. Next minute, I'm on the phone with him again next day. Going, right, sorted, blah, blah. This is what's happening, not this date. I'm like, shit. So I started training. And like literally, man, I was having to tape my knee up with gaffer tape just to hold it in place because obviously like all the ligaments were all flopping around. My knee was just like so unsteady. And the first 2 days I did all right. And then on day 3, it just ballooned up like that. So I rang my surgeon and I said, listen, can we just put this back? I'm going to fight Floyd Mayweather. He went, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. He said, but you might end up like doing some irreversible damage that I can't save you. You might end up walking with a limp. You might end up needing a knee replacement by 40. I was like, is any of this going to be worth it? I went, can I get through the camp without like causing some blasting damage? And he said, I don't think you can. I went, oh, I thought, damn. But the thing is as well, I couldn't move properly. Obviously, when you've all your legs compromised, like as bad as mine were, I'd done ACL, MCL, medial and lateral meniscus. So I mean, they were just flopping around everywhere. I couldn't move, and I'm thinking, this is the greatest fighter of the last 25 years. I said, I wouldn't be able to land a punch on him even if I could move, I don't think. I was just so like, wanted to be in there with him just so much that I didn't care. And then it got to a point where I started sparring and fighters were moving and that. I just couldn't keep up, and I thought, I'm going to embarrass myself here. So I had to like ring up and say, listen, I can't fight, I need surgery. And that's what I didn't want to happen. I didn't want to get in there and everyone be like, because there'd have been so many eyes on that and so many people who didn't know me and so many people didn't know about Muay Thai and what it was, they'd have been like, them Muay Thai fighters are shit. Did you see what Liam Harrison did? He got battered, he couldn't move, he couldn't do this. And I didn't want to embarrass myself and I didn't want to let anyone down of a poor performance, which is what would have happened. It would have been embarrassing because I couldn't move properly.
Obviously, Floyd is unbelievable, but what do you think it would look like if you were fit?
Well, listen, he's a bit older now, and I would not go in there to show any respect. I'd probably end up getting flattened because I'd go in there just swinging. All I'd want to do is land one clean punch and some photographer catch it, and that'll be my profile photo for life. A clean punch on Floyd Mayweather, and I'd end up like going in there. I wouldn't go in there to lay down, and I wouldn't go in there just to back off. I'd end up getting myself flattened because I'm not a boxer, but I'm a fighter, and that's what I'd do. I'd go in there and try and fight, and I'd probably end up getting punched all over the place.
Is there anyone else that sparks it? You know, obviously the names of like Jake Paul, KSI, all those kind of guys. Has any of that come up or?
Do you know what? Those guys are absolutely humongous compared to me. I only fight at like my last fight were 140 pounds. I think they fight like 185, 190. So people say that to me all the time going, I'd love to see you fight some of them. I'm like, hang on. I don't think, no. I don't want to get punched. Jake Paul can throw a fucking punch now. He can throw an hard punch, can Jake Paul. He might have been an incredible boxer, but he's got power. And if someone who's 45 pounds heavier than you hits you ain't got a chance. So if there's a few lower weight like celebs who won't mind getting the face punched in, I'm the guy to call.
Any other fighters who are involved in that? Obviously, there was a moment Conor was going to fight in that kind of space as well. Is that something that's been spoken about or?
You know, since the Mayweather one, there's been a few people who've approached me saying, are you into get involved in some of this inflow boxing stuff? And I think, you know what, when I retire from Thai, yeah, I'll do a bit. It'll be fun. It'll scratch the itch to compete and it'll just give me something to focus my energies on. So yeah, I'm not getting back to any of these people just yet. I've just said, yeah, I'm interested. And then, you know what, let me get my last fight out of the way and then we'll see where the journey takes me.
Is it all right to speak about the stem cell stuff on camera? Yeah. I'm actually going to get stem cell myself, hopefully towards the end of the year with a company called BioAccelerator.
In Colombia.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with them. I was going to go to them, but I ended up going to Costa Rica instead to RMI Clinic.
What did you go for primarily? Knees?
Knees, yeah. My knee was destroyed. I had all them surgeries. I've had about 4 surgeries on my knee now. And I was just in pain constantly all the time. Yeah, it was swelling up all the time. And it got to a point where I'm going to have to retire. I thought, I'm not going to have to retire. I'm not going to be a coach. I'm not going to do all this. I was in pain walking my dog in the morning. I'd get up every morning and have to walk down the stairs like a crab sideways because I just couldn't walk downstairs properly. Yeah. And then it taken me every day about an hour of walking dog around park until my legs stopped like seizing up and now limp. People know it got to me. I see on my walk where I walk my dog, I see my mates every morning, they'll beat Van when we go past, and every single morning going, oh, you're limping again, mate. And I'm like, oh, is it that obvious that I'm walking with a limp and stuff? And it started to proper get to me. And this was the last straw. And I went over to him, I had a consultation and just said, can you save me? I said, I don't want to retire. I said, I want to have a few more fights. And then, yeah, they saved me and I got a few more fights in.
Yeah, what's the before and after like?
So it's mad over there because, yeah, the treatment I had a stem cell infusion to put straight into your vein and blasted around your body. That's so good for like your cognitive function and stuff like that. I noticed that my brain's like a washing machine most days. It's all over the place. But that, as soon as that hit in, I just had like mental clarity, focus, everything. It was like, when you like have like some mushroom extract, ashwagandha and all that type of stuff, and you just get a good day, a good cognitive function and stuff. Like this was that lasted about 4 weeks solid with that, and it brought all the inflammation down in my body. And then I got my knees done. I got both my knees done actually as well. I got my knee done, which needed sorting, and then within a week, swelling had gone, pain had gone. He said, do not kick anything. He said, I know what it's like telling a fighter to not do something. You're going to go train. He said, but please let this settle in because I want the best results for you. And I did that. I just did boxing pad weight for like 4 weeks, and I was dying to kick something. And he said, all I want you to do is strengthen your quads up and stuff like that. And I kept ringing him every day going, can I kick something now? I'm going, no. I went, now, no. And then we got to like a month of letting it settle in. He went, right, go kick the pads, let me know how you feel. Kick the pads, train my ass off, no pain, no swelling, no discomfort. And my knee's totally normal now, and I never get swollen even after training, kicking the pads like you saw me kick today and stuff. And yeah, it changed my life.
I can't wait. So I just did this mad run. I had a stone on my back. We did like a 480-mile run.
Wow.
Yeah. And so a friend of mine, I'll shout him out, Chad Robichaud, because he's the guy who's hooked me up with Bioaccelerator, and they're doing both my knees, my ankle, and the infusion
as well. Nice.
And like I've never had anything work for it, so I'm kind of skeptical a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But
nah, I actually went back to the stem cell place last month.
Yeah,
I said to you, I hadn't trained for a month because I went back for a top up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went back because I thought, well, it's done that good on this knee. I went back, I got that knee, my back, my neck, both my elbows and both my wrist joints, and I got it all. I went, right, just sort me out here. And they did. So shout out to the RMI clinic. They've done God's work there.
It was actually Joe Rogan that I'd heard speaking about it so much. I was like, I need to.
He told me to do it when I were on podcast. He said, just get your sent to thingy and get some stem cell. And I was like, yeah, I don't know too much about that. And then the more I looked into it and stuff like that, and then, yeah, the best thing I've ever done.